and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. As video viewers will immediately see, we are once again back in person in my house to record this one. And for audio listeners, hopefully it sounds almost as good as it normally does in our regular setup. This isn't our permanent setup, but the Alan Wake one sounded okay, so hopefully this one sounds okay too.
It sounded good. Also, I'm enjoying being physical. Can you believe this?
Ow!
We've got mass. We're actually real 3D people.
It's true. It's good to do this every now and again to prove that we do exist in this realm.
I'm actually put my arm over. There's like a clear cut, and it's like it looks like really fake.
Or like your hand comes in from this side. Sorry, audio listeners, use your imagination to what we were talking about there. But yeah, it's always fun doing them in person. We think, there's no lag or any delay. So the plan is, whenever possible, to do these in person in the future. But apart from that, let's go on to talk about the game that we're going to be discussing in this episode, which is a game called Dredge.
Dredge, indeed. Do you remember who picked this? Was it me?
You picked it. Yeah.
I picked it. Okay, I'm going to read the Wikipedia entry. And then I'm going to tell you why I picked it.
Okay.
So, Dredge is a 2023 fishing game developed by Black Salt Games. The game follows a fisherman who encounters increasingly Lovecraftian creatures as he ventures out further into an open-world archipelago. The game was released on March 30th, 2023 for PC, Nintendo Switch, PS4 and 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. That's everything.
Why'd you pick it?
I picked it because I thought it was a horror game. I thought it was going to be. I don't know if it's me, and I don't know if I was misled or if I was just ill-informed. Because it's like I went on the website and looked up, and I was like, did they ever say it was a horror game? And they never did. But everyone kind of made out that it was a horror game.
It's got like horror. It's horror adjacent, I would suppose.
Yeah, it's not even.
It's not scary.
No, it's not scary in the slightest. It's more of a cozy game. So I also thought it was more of an action game.
Okay.
I thought I was going to be like dodging fish and like,
because
I didn't really know anything about it. And also a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Game of the Year 2023, Dredge. Or not, obviously last year was big, but like up there.
It was in the discussion.
Yeah, no,
because I remember, because I also thought it was going to be more of a horror game. I can't remember, it might be an IGN, but there was a video review I watched and they really spoke about like the terror of the big thing, the unknown under the water.
Yeah.
And I think it's much more like closer to like Subnautica level, where it's not really horror, but I mean Subnautica.
I've not played Subnautica.
Yeah, but they have.
Yeah. I think it's basically not. I would struggle to even say that it's horror themed because it's that low level. But it's more of a cozy game.
Yeah,
more of a cozy game, which I did not realize at all.
Were you disappointed?
Yeah, I was, but then again, I don't want to, have a go at the game for something that it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was going to be spooky and scary, and the intro is also quite creepy and weird. But then it just kind of doesn't carry that on anymore. But should we just quickly go into what the game is for people that aren't watching the video?
Yeah, so you kind of get the overview, but like I guess the gameplay loop is so you're controlling a little boat and literally you're just controlling the boat. Like you never get out of the boat, you never walk around.
He's called Dredge as well, isn't he? The boat.
Is the boat called the Dredge? I didn't actually know that's what it's called. Oh, okay. I was like, can I just say, by the way, just talking about that, I think Dredge is one of the best names for a game.
Yeah, it's
any
good.
game. It's so perfect for like
good.
The tone of the game, and also like you're dredging up things, and also like dredging up history and secrets and stuff.
Yes,
like it's
true.
Like I was literally thinking, like, oh, maybe we do a tier list of just the names of these games. Like
Dredge would be up there for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, you're controlling this little boat going around this archipelago, and you are upgrading your boat to kind of get new rods and nets and kind of crab like cages, and you're fishing. Each fish or type your fish you get has like its own like little mini game.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you're kind of doing like a little timing game. Sometimes they're basically all little timing games, but arranged in different ways. And then you sell the fish to get money to then keep upgrading your boat. But then throughout this, there's kind of side missions and an overall mission to kind of collect 4 relics. And basically the game is split up into like the base area, which is where the village is. And then there's kind of 4 other very distinctly themed zones that you travel to. Each one you kind of have almost like a little puzzle to solve in order to get the relic. And then once you've got them all, that's basically it.
Yeah, God, good job explaining that. You don't explain the games very often, but you did a great job on that one. Nicely done. With the game, it starts, and there is a bit of an atmosphere when it starts. They're like, "Oh, you must be the new fisherman," like, and they just kind of assume that's who you are when you rock up. And like, some of the townspeople are quite weird,
and they're immediately like, "Oh, you're the new fisherman. The last fisherman died."
Exactly.
And you're like, "Oh, okay."
And then they're like, "Oh, can you go and deliver this thing? It's a whispering box." And it's like, "Oh, what is going on here exactly?"
And then there's like the lighthouse keeper who's like, "Oh, stay away!" She's like freaked out by everything the whole game.
Yeah, but I was like fully bought in to start with that. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is really cool," but then it very quickly loses its edge. I think it's almost as if as soon as you see the first setup of the 4 islands, you're like, oh, I know exactly how the rest of this game is going to be.
Yeah, you can even look at the map where there's just like the middle bit and then just like a little patch of island, patch of island. It's almost a little bit like Breath of the Wild, when there's like, this is like the Rito village, this is like where the Zora are, and like it's kind of split into like 4 quarters, almost like that, but not as, because it's obviously out in the open ocean, there's between them, there is kind of just open ocean and not really much else.
And I guess the twist on the formula, because it is kind of like a cozy game, like you're getting fish, you're selling them, you're upgrading your boat, etc., etc. But the twist is, if you go out at night, you start to panic, or you have like kind of a panic meter, which is this eyeball that opens, and then the more panicked you are, what's meant to happen is the game's meant to be harder, but I don't know whether or not it really is.
So can you talk? So I was very conservative.
Yeah.
And I had an early, I would go to bed at 8 p.m. I was very rarely out at night. So I feel like a lot of the panic stuff I just didn't see because I was very good at making sure I was always back home in time.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that you did see it. And there just isn't very much. So you can't, if you fully max out your panic, nothing extra happens.
Oh, okay.
You can't die or anything like that. You basically get things like, there'll be like another tugboat coming, and then as you get towards it, it reveals it's one of the lanterns from the head of one of those fish.
So I never saw that.
Okay, and there's also rocks appearing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one I remember seeing is like some tentacles come up and try and grab you, but they're really slow. So like you can easily outrun them.
Okay.
But yeah, you can't die from it. And then to reset your panic back to 0, you only have to sleep for 2 hours. So you don't have to do the whole night. You just do 2 hours and you can get up and get back out to fishing again. So that's kind of like the big stakes of it. But they're also kind of non-existent.
Yeah. It's not trying to be a difficult game. I mean, banging your ship can be a little bit annoying because if you hit anything, you'll take damage, and it'll basically pick like what I assume is a random square in your, something we haven't spoken about, is like kind of your inventory or your cargo. And if there was a fish or something there, that gets lost, or if that was where your engine was, you can't use that engine. But yeah, the other thing I didn't mention is for when you get fish, it kind of does the old classic Resident Evil style inventory screen where this fish is like a right angle. If you imagine like Tetris blocks and you kind of got to arrange them and like try and make them neatly fit in when you collect. So there's a little bit of like, oh, I've got like this space left. I want to catch this type of fish to fit as many in as I can.
So that was another thing that I knew about the game before I picked it up as well. It's like everyone was like, oh, it's like Resident Evil 4 style, dropping things in the inventory, which actually is quite cool and quite effective. The way that you have the engines and the lights and stuff like that, and the nets, is quite cool.
Yeah, because when you do upgrades to your boat, like sometimes you'll do like a big overall upgrade where you kind of get more space, but sometimes it might be like you don't have any more slots, but more of those slots could be used for a rod, or more of those slots could be used for an engine. So like you could have like 8 slots for your engine, and you could have one big engine, or you could have a bunch of little engines, and you can kind of like match them. Because one of the big things is with the fish that you're getting is there'll often be different types. There'll be like oceanic fish, or like shallow fish, or like volcanic fish, and you have to use certain rods in order to get certain fish. So there's a bit of planning ahead of like, do I want to get like only the best rod that gets this type of fish? Or you kind of want to do a combination so you can get as many different types that are available to you like in that area. So there's a bit of kind of strategy there, and it takes time to like install these things. So you've got to kind of plan for when you want to install them and switch them out. So I think that's kind of, because the actual fishing mechanics and dredging up mechanics are so simple.
They're so simple.
I think it's really that progression and those, it's the decision making of planning a route and setting off and trying to make sure you're back in time is where the actual kind of challenge and gameplay is. Whereas it's very rare to fail catching a fish. Or at least, for me it was. But I think for most, I don't think it's meant to be difficult.
Did you ever die?
No.
Okay, you don't lose anything. You just appear back at the Great Marrow.
Okay.
So, which I looked up, I didn't die because it's so easy.
I'm not judging you. If you died, we're amongst friends here.
I think saying that that's where the challenge is a bit like there is no challenge in this game. Like it is so straightforward. And the thing is as well is that every mission is you go and speak to someone and they give you like a list of fish. You go and get them and bring them back. Like there isn't really anything else.
No, but you've got to work out where the fish is, and sometimes you get like. There's the kind of traveling like saleswoman person. And I quite enjoyed her mission because basically there's a super rare one-off fish in each of these 4 places. And she'll often be like, this fish likes to hide under rocks in this kind of area. And there's normally some sort of puzzle to get them because there's almost, they're once again very light, but almost some like Metroidvania type of elements. Like you get to an area and you can see there's a bunch of places blocked off by like rocks. And then eventually you get the ability to buy dynamite and then you can blow those rocks up. But then in other areas, you will also find stuff that you can blow things up as well. So there's a very light element of kind of Metroidvania.
Yeah, I guess also the same with like, you need a trawler net. So you need to be leveled up enough to get a trawler net and be able to install it. So there's all that as well. But with the leveling up of your ship, using you get these research gears and you kind of put them into the parts of your ship you want to improve. I sort of messed that up because I didn't realize you could scroll pages.
Oh, so you just kept upgrading
the
rods.
So I fully leveled up the rods by like halfway through the second section. So then I could just fish everywhere because I had the best rod you could have.
Yeah.
So then it was like, it covers volcanic. It covers like absolutely everything. So I was like, oh, great. Like I'm fully covered.
You must have been traveling really slow because you wouldn't have been able to get better engines.
Yeah, I was. So basically I bought the deluxe edition that came with the Blackstone Isle key, which that key opens the shed on the islands that collector. Yeah. And in there is a like what are they called? Like aberrant? Like the names of the fishes that are like messed up.
Oh, like is it not abhorrent? Is that what it is?
Something like that. Abhorrent. It had an abhorrent engine.
Oh.
And it's one square. And I could put that in my boat and it gave me a speed boost. So I didn't
that's not fair. Pay to win.
I didn't mean
Dredge,
to. It's cheap. The deluxe edition is cheaper than the standard edition on Xbox.
Oh,
so I bought it. Yeah. Yeah, because it also came with fishing manifest. I had no idea what it was. It was another one squarer, but I just kept it in. I don't know what it was doing. But yeah, so I kept that in. But I feel like a lot of the mechanics and like upgrading your boat and putting engines in and things, they're not really explained very well. Like I kind of got it and it was fine, but I imagined a lot of people being like, you can install more than one engine.
Yeah, because that's a little bit counterintuitive. And like especially things like the light, like because one of the big things is if you're in the dark, you need a good light. And so there'd be a slot. But obviously, visually on the boat, you only have one light. But you could like arrange like a light, one horizontal and one vertical. And like it makes no sense. But like it's just like the storage screen is kind of just a representation of it. So I guess that is a bit counterintuitive. But like, yeah, I don't know if I actually really explained it. Because like you, I was fine. I never got confused. But I could imagine maybe someone would.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely would.
And then the other like big factor is time. Whereas like I think in one way it's done quite smart because if you're not doing anything, time doesn't pass. So if you like literally like you don't pause the game, but you just stop sailing your boat, like time freezes. And then when you start sailing or when you're fishing or dredging up something from the depths, time moves, but then time moves like really fast.
Yeah, so dredging in particular makes it move really quick, I've noticed.
I think it's just dredging. I don't think it moves quick. I think just dredging takes longer. I think. Okay. So it kind of, I think so.
Well, a lot of the upgrades as well were like, you can fish 10% faster. And it's a bit like, I don't really know what that means.
Does like, that
I don't know what that, and also I can't really imagine that. Like, it doesn't seem worth chasing 10% of time.
Yeah. But like the days are like really short, especially like early on when the boat's moving quite slow.
It's so slow.
And like, I'm like, oh, I got to go to a place. I go to the place and I'm like, oh, it's 5 p.m. Like, I don't even know, like, I got to like leg it back. And like, I feel like, I don't think it's unbalanced, but I feel like because they had to probably balance it with quite short days, because otherwise maybe you'd end up be filling up your ship with too many fish too quick. Yeah. It kind of made it just quite annoying.
Well, do you want to know a little fact?
Okay.
Some of the missions used to be timed. And they patched them out. because people were getting too annoyed with the days being, or the running out of time, I suppose. So they patched it out to just be, just take your time to do
I just wish like the days could comfortably like be twice as long.
Yeah.
Like I think that like they would have to make other changes in the balance to account that. But like I was constantly being like, it's frustrating that I have to go back and sleep now. I wish I could just carry on exploring and fishing. It's like my boat's like only a quarter full of fish because I had to sail to someone slowly to accept a side mission or something. And then I'm sailing back. It's like, oh, is that my whole day?
So what about the, did you use any of the like, I don't really know what they're called, like the evil powers that you unlock?
Yeah, all of them. So I used haste.
Yeah.
A lot of haste.
Haste makes you speed boost and it's just constantly getting used.
But if you do it too much, it overheats.
It does blow your engine, which I did twice.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't paying attention. There's also the one that teleports you back to the...
Yeah, like quick travel back to like the middle of the map, basically.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, just because we spoke about it in Death Stranding, where like the narrative reason for like using the teleport, they'll be like, you can teleport back, but don't use it too much because something bad will happen. Like nothing happens. Like it's fine. Like you can teleport back.
I think it says like return to where it all began. And I was I quite like that wording.
Yeah, same with the haste as well. It's like, oh yeah, it drives you mad if you use it too much. It's like, well, you really gotta blow your engines multiple times to really get, because you get the red mist, but then it just disappears again.
Yeah. And then there's banish, which basically any nasties that are chasing you down, you can do that and it sends them away, and then that has quite a big cooldown. Then there's probably one more, the final one.
I think there was another one, but I don't think I ever unlocked it. I definitely had one question mark on mine when I ended the game. Oh, do you know what? I don't think I got the camera. I read online you can get a camera.
Oh yeah, I got a camera.
Yeah, I don't think I got that.
Yeah, but that's just from a side mission. Someone.
Yeah. I think the last time you go and see the collector, you just go straight to the ending.
Okay, is there not another special one?
Did you figure out the use for the horn?
No.
So you know when crows would attack the boat.
Okay.
If you blow the horn, they fly away. Yeah, which is pretty cool.
So what was your like game plan when you were playing this game? So say you're at an area. So say you're just trying to get money. Like what was your strategy?
Crab pots, man.
Yeah.
Crab pots, baby.
Crab pot bros.
I would leave like a landing strip of crab pots.
Like right,
they make so much money.
I would always leave them just right by where to sell them. I'd never spread them around or anything.
Yeah.
Just do like a trail.
I just put a line of 5.
And it helps you to find your way back as well.
Exactly. And then the other one, of course, is the trawler net. The trawler net makes you a lot of money, but that's just...
Yeah.
As you
but then it takes up space where you could have a rod. And I'm always like, I'd hate it if I got to a place where I could fish and I can't. Would annoy me.
Yeah.
So I'd almost sacrifice making more money by always having them available.
Saying that, every single island and every single little area always had a my storage box. Mm-hmm. So you could always get your stuff back quite easily. It's not like, there's one area where I didn't have a bomb, but I knew I had one in my storage. And I didn't have to go all the way back. I just had to go to the nearest dock, which happened to be, one square over on the map. And it's like, it's kind of fine. I think for me, the big takeaway for me was that like, because the stakes are so low, it lost quite a lot of its fun. It was more fun when I thought it was scarier than it actually was. Like you're saying about what's your plan getting money? It's like, well, I would just go out and it doesn't matter how many days it takes because who cares? So I think I finished it in 70 days, in-game days. And it took me about 25 in-game days to kind of get a decent enough boat that I could.
Yeah. Like, I do feel like that early progression I enjoyed more because it would be like, oh, I've got a new engine and now I'm like 3 times as fast and I can feel it. Or like, oh, I've got a rod. These like fishing points that I've like traveled past so many times and couldn't interact with, I could now do things with. And then once it got like a little bit further in, it would be like, as you said, oh, I can fish 30% faster. And it's like, I don't even notice it, So it didn't feel like it kept adding things at a pace enough or different enough things that even though it's not a particularly long game, like in the end I was like, I want to kind of see this through, and I ended up with too much money. I think I kind of messed up. I ended up getting too much of the stuff that you can dredge up. So the dredging is basically like kind of dredging stuff up from the floor.
Objects, isn't it?
Like things like scrap that you can use for upgrades, or like a watch that you can sell to a trader and stuff. So those sorts of things. I ended up just filling up my inventory with loads of like wooden planks and things. I just had like too much of it. But then I like went through that whole path that you need to do to unlock new things and to upgrade your ship. Basically, I did that I think really early, for some reason.
Yeah.
And then I kept collecting, like, there'd be like the special like curved metal, which would be the valuable
that's
one.
a hard one to get.
But then I ended up with like loads of them at the end. And I was like, oh, I don't want to get rid of them. And it's like, I have no use for them, but they feel too precious to get, because I really cared about these earlier. So I feel like there's something about the way that I played where I just ended up with like loads of money and loads of like of these resources, and like not for just like the final hour. I mean for like the final 4 or 5 hours. I was just overrun.
That's like half the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, well, probably from like probably from about the third place you go to, I got to a point where I just felt like money wasn't a thing anymore, and then like upgrade equipment wasn't a thing anymore, and so I was just going through and just doing the mission, and then I kind of did the last 2 areas like very quickly.
Yeah, I fully lost steam in the last area and just used a guide from then on.
Okay.
Because I was like, I want to see it through, but also I'm kind of done. Because I knew the game had a good ending, so I was like, I want to see the ending at least, which we're not going to go into now. But do you remember there's a part in it where you visit this researcher, and she gives you 1 gear to research a type of like a abyssal level rod.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the exact time that I discovered that there were other research pages. So I spent my 1 research point on the wrong thing and didn't realise that I was meant to buy an abyssal rod. Because obviously that's always been blacked out for me the whole time up to that point. So I didn't even think about
the area
of
the tentacle thing.
Yeah. So I spent it on the wrong thing, and then I was like, how do I get another research point? So I ended up just going around, and then it turns out you can just buy them from shops. And that's when I realised that from the trader, you can buy like precious metal, you can buy the research things, you can buy obviously crab pots from her as well. So I just got it. But I feel like the whole game I was just going through the motions. And I feel like that's why at the end I was really running out of steam of like, I don't know how many more of these lists I can tick off. Because I also didn't do a lot of the side content. I did some of the like, my brother's missing. Can you get my... And then you drop him in the inventory.
Yeah. And it's just like a little person. Like you just put him in next to your fish. Just like put him in the cargo hold.
Which is pretty funny. And there was also that bit where they give you a key and it's like...
It's giant.
Like huge key.
Do you know why I think a lot of that stuff is? Because something I was thinking of is there's a lot of times when a character NPC gives you something, and I think they want to make sure you always have space for it. So if they give you the key and it's big, if you give that key to someone, the game knows you have space for whatever they're going to give you back. So that's why I think they give you a big key.
As we did on the show, Resident Evil 1, before you get the rocket launcher at the end, you have to take a flare gun, which is the same size as the rocket. So it's like, clever. But what's your overall thoughts? Why are you being coy? What are you doing?
I'm not being coy.
You're being a bit coy. A little bit.
Like I think, like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it most at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
I began enjoying it less. It got to a point where, like, I felt maybe I just front ended. I think maybe at the beginning, I spent too much time just going out fishing. And I think maybe they were expecting me to be doing missions and fishing on the way. Yeah. But I was enjoying it. I was like, I want to get this upgrade. I need this amount of money. I'm going to go out and like think, if I know this pool of fish has those beautiful right angle fish. They're the best ones.
Yeah,
they're really good for like figures. Yeah. So and I really enjoyed that. And so I think I did that a lot. And then maybe the rest of the game I was a bit overpowered to the point where I was like, I guess I could get a slightly better engine, but like at this point, it doesn't really the time spent doing it. I'd probably be quicker just going through the motions. And so, by the end, I was just taking the game at straight value, doing the missions. Mm-hmm. But the missions are, as you said, mostly about kind of just getting fish, which is kind of the same thing that I did before. So like you, I think it kind of ran out of steam a little bit for me at the end.
The characters that you get the missions from, like the art style is really good, but they're not interesting.
No, they're not. They don't quite have enough. And basically all of your options for talking to them are like, it's almost a bit narcissistic. It's all about you. Yeah. You're not really hearing, but there's a few. There is like a dad who lost their son or something quite early on, but most of it is like, what can you tell me about the fish?
Yeah.
Or like,
do you know where there are any wrecks around here? Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you really, there isn't much dialogue, text in the game in general. I did like the vibe of it. I played most of it with headphones on, and I think the audio is good. The sound, when you get sometimes when you go fishing, as you kind of mentioned, you get like the weird fish.
Oh yeah,
and they're like the mutant fish basically. And I think the art for them is really cool, but also like there's like a sound that plays.
Yeah.
Kind of like almost like an Al
It's like a distorted version of the fishing sound.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that sound with getting that, like things like that are done really, really well and I appreciated.
Yeah, I also really like when I first was playing and it just said at the side of the screen, like something has slithered on board.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Turned out to just be a fish that I could sell. But I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? But then there's a bit where you go back to the guy, the fishmonger, and he's like, oh, I want to know what's up with these crazy fish. And you give him one and he shuts for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, should I not?
But he wanted to eat one.
Yeah, so I was like, should I not give this guy these fish? Is it going to make it harder for me? Turns out that's not the case.
No.
It just shuts for 2 days and it reopens. I don't know why it shuts for 2 days, but...
Well, he has like he goes a bit crazy, doesn't he, after eating them?
Yeah.
And there's other cool, like I enjoyed the first time when you're traveling across like a big open ocean. And like sometimes you'll see like an orca or like dolphins swimming by you, and you're in like the bigger waves. Like that was a cool moment. There's the bit that I kind of briefly mentioned earlier where there's basically one of the areas where it's like a circle of rocks and there's like a giant creature in the middle with tentacles that like tries to attack you. And then you got to power this generator with this kind of research device thing to kind of stop it. Like that was quite cool. There's another bit where you're going up to shipwrecks the whole way through the game. You go up to one shipwreck. I don't know if you saw it, and it's actually a big crab.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, it's like, it looks like a shipwreck. If you go close, it's actually like a shipwreck on like a crab's back. Cool. And that's a bit like, oh, okay. And then like off I went. So there are a few like little kind of standout moments like that kind of scattered out throughout the game, but mostly it's fishing.
Yeah, there's that part where, I don't know if I did it wrong or if I did it right, but it's like a waterfall and there's an object that you need for the collector in front of it. And then you go over to get the object and a fish comes out from under the waterfall and like smashes into you. And then I like was just thinking, like, oh, if I just quickly go back, he probably won't be ready to go again. And I managed to get the object. I don't know what the correct way of not getting hit by that fish was. Do you remember that part?
I don't remember the fish.
I think it was like the second object you get, or maybe the first. And it's just like a huge fish just swims out and smashes into you.
Okay.
No, I guess if you don't remember, maybe I did it right. Or maybe I did it wrong. Maybe I should never have done it when you at night or something. But there was also those, I don't think they're actually that good, but there's those little orange fish that just like, me.
Oh, the little
like,
piranhas.
And then they kind of drag you to their mummy fish that like...
Yeah. Once again, though, because once I reached them, I had that banish ability. And so anytime, because the whole thing is like there's little fish that chase you, and the way you're meant to avoid them is there's like these like, just like steam, whatever coming out the water. Like,
oh, you swim through those and it gets rid of them.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Did you not know that?
I just haste away and they just.
So there's someone, I can't remember. It's written so either in a note or someone says it. Someone says that as like a hint, or like, oh, it seems like if they run away, if you do this, like, okay. So yeah, if you swim through that stops them from chasing you.
Yeah. Did you also figure out what to do with those big stones? It's like you put your hand on the stone, it doesn't.
No. Yeah.
I think you have to have your panic high enough to.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely did one or two, but I don't remember what they. I don't remember them. I don't remember what they said, so it couldn't have been that.
Or is it just information? There's not like
it's something to do. I think it was something like demonic-ish, but nothing that was enough for me to remember what it said. I was just like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I kept waiting for me to get like the thing that allows me to interact with them, and then like the game ended quite abruptly. I found.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, but maybe because it doesn't help that it's so short, but also it's like, I feel like another reason it's so abrupt is because you can really see it coming. You're like, well, I've done the 4 things. Yeah. This is it now. Like,
well, I think often though, like with a game like that, if it's like, get the 4 MacGuffins and meet me at the place, there's then almost normally like another bit of gameplay, like of an equivalent length as getting one of the MacGuffins. Whereas this one, like you get the MacGuffins and then you go to the guy and it comes up with a big warning saying like, you're about to end the game. Like, you can't save beyond this point. Are you sure? And you're like, yes. And then it's like, are you really sure?
Yeah, 2 warnings.
And then it's like, yes, no, I'm sure. And then you sail forward and then the game ends like almost immediately. And I was like, oh, I thought that was like, not the final boss, but I thought there was going to be a final save. It feels like that's 2 warnings for that. Yeah. What's the point? Because like
well, there's 2 endings.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you got the ending. Spoilers, everyone, for Dredge. I'm assuming you got the ending where the octopus comes out and the woman's flying.
Yeah.
So there's another ending, like a good ending.
Okay.
Where basically your guy just throws all of the stuff overboard and is like, I don't want anything to do with it. And then a whale eats you.
That's the good ending.
That's the good ending.
Oh, so it's a From Software style good ending, is it?
But what you have to do is, rather than when you speak to the collector and you give them all the stuff, I think you go and speak to the lighthouse lady again. And she kind of explains to you like what's going on, and like I don't remember what is the reason that all this is happening, but it's something to do with like the fact that you want your wife back alive.
Yeah.
And the collector might not be actually real, and it's actually just yourself telling yourself how to
see. I thought it was the collector person. I thought they were trying to bring their wife back, and that's why they wanted all this stuff.
No,
but maybe if that that collector person isn't real,
yeah.
Maybe
that's what the ending. It's something to do with that, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't look up anything about it or like try, because a lot of these games it's sort of like stuff happens. Like I kind of think of like Outer Wilds as well. Like a bunch of stuff happens.
Watch what you say.
And it's visually really interesting. And like I liked the end of it, and I'm like, that's cool. Right, let's find out what happened. Like, I'm like, that's a great story. Yeah. Like, like that's the way. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. But that's the way a lot of these sorts of arty indie games go for me.
Yeah.
And this one, I never kind of looked up to see what it says, but it sounds like you did a bit.
Yeah, I did. I think I looked it up just because I was like, this is not what I was expecting at all after I finished it. Because I agree, when it ended, I was a bit like, okay. I kind of realised it wasn't going to be scary. About an hour in, I was like, okay. But, I mean, I've got some facts about this game.
Okay.
Which you might want to hear. Do you know it was developed by 4 people?
No.
4 people. I mean, there's loads of QA testers according to the credits, but yeah, it was developed mainly by 4 people, and they did loads of different styles of game before they landed on Dredge for what it is. They originally had much more complex fishing with like currents and tides and all this crazy stuff, and then they had weather effects, and like you could see the weather forecast, and it was way more complicated before, but they felt like it kind of distracted away from.
Yeah, I actually had like a note about that saying like they could have made it much more complicated with you needing like different bait for different fish, and I'm so glad they didn't.
Yeah,
if it got to like that fiddly and to that level, like I'm glad, and in that regard, for the simplicity.
Yeah, and I mean, if they weren't trying to make a horror game, they wanted to make a cozy game that had a bit of a weird atmosphere, then I would say they completely nailed it. I just don't know if that's what I want to play. Do you know what I mean?
I think the game could, maybe less for you, but I think the game can generate tension.
Good pun.
The line. like I think it could, it's never trying to jump scare you, but it could make you feel uneasy.
Yeah, for the first hour, and then it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a net positive.
Yeah. Good one. Nice one. Keeping it real. I like to hear that.
Anyway, my pet name for you, Rod. Rodney, as I call you from now.
Another fact for you, I found out 2 days ago, announced 2 days ago, it's being made into a film.
What?
I know.
Like a Hollywood film, or like
the same company called Story Kitchen who made the Sonic movie.
What?
Are making a Dredge film, and they also own the rights to Disco Elysium for a film, Vampire Survivors, and It Takes Two.
God, I wonder if that. Okay, you got to do a bet now. Is the Dredge film ever coming out?
No. They've got a story.
No, I mean, like a horror film in this sort of vibe and catching weird fish is like that. Like I'm not saying it couldn't work. It's just it feels like we get a lot more video game movies announced than we do that come out.
Yeah,
like a lot of them fall apart.
I mean, saying it's not going to work is mad to me, because as I finished this game, I was saying to Bryony, like, it's insane to me that they've made night fishing not scary. Imagine night fishing in real life. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God. Like, I feel like if they were trying to make it scary, there's some like really easy things that they failed on that they could have done. Like, for example, the camera, because you can just see everything.
Yeah, it's very wide.
It isn't unscary because you can see everything. There's no stakes whatsoever. You'd think like, the scary thing is underwater and you don't know what's under there. But if you just look at something with your telescope, it tells you what's down there. So it's like, kind of in all those ways, it's not scary.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be more of I'm sailing and I see a big shadow just
underneath, under the water, like under your boat. Could you imagine? Like you look down and there's like a huge shadow. Underneath?
Yeah, like a giant one. Like because that would be a bit like, not in terms of I'm scared in terms of like the way a film would scare you, but like if I've got a bunch of cargo and there's this big thing, like even mechanically, I'm like, I don't want this to get me. I don't want to lose progress. I also wonder if the fact that you never really see your character, like you are the boat. And I wonder if it feels less scary about a boat getting damaged rather than like a human life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. And also, you can say some things to kind of set your character, like as in you can kind of role play and they'll be like, oh, what are you doing here? And you can be like, I'm just a wanderer.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I'm looking for fish or something. That's kind of it. There's not really a lot more to it than that. I think maybe you wouldn't even want to make it fully first person or anything. So obviously that's so much more work and it's a completely different kind of game. But maybe if like just when you were dredging, it was first person, or just when you were reeling in, it was first, and you could like, you'd see the shadow coming close and you'd be like, God, I hope that's something good and not something bad.
I mean, if they were going for that.
If they were going for that.
Maybe they were worried, like they wanted a setting, but they didn't want it to actually be too tense or scary. Like, I feel like that's probably where they reeled it into this level.
Very nice, very nice. I just think that the way they've done it is it just feels a little bit toothless. It reminds me a little bit of the ending of Undertale, where it's like, I'm going to delete your game, and then they just don't. Where it's like, oh, this bad stuff's going to happen if you panic and you're worried and you're scared and you're at sea, and it's like, actually, nothing really happens.
Yeah, and the fact that I like never really knew if I ever saw that. I'm like, it did like I like the whole time, like, and I was maybe playing too conservative and always going to bed on time. Also, a little tip.
Yep.
Bit late, but a little tip is I would, so you could set to sleep and it would sleep until like 6 a.m. or something. I'd always get up at like 5 a.m. Give myself an extra hour. Did you ever do that?
I only ever
manually stop and then...
I only ever slept for 2 hours at a time because it resets your panic.
Ah, okay.
And then I was happy to just fish 24/7, really. Didn't really matter when, because I'm hard. I'm a hard man. Didn't really care when it was.
Yeah.
It's just like...
I'm a union fisherman, so I wasn't... I got to follow union rules.
You must be the only one, because there seemed to be another fisherman there.
No, there was one more, but they died. So
yeah. I tell you what the other power was that we forgot. It was the one that just lifts the fish out of the water.
I don't think I saw that.
You probably saw it, but you didn't use it because it's like if you use it, it decimates that fishing spot.
Oh, yeah. I did. Yeah. You just get them instantly.
You get them instantly.
Yeah. No, I did use that. And then there are other things. There's like bait that you can throw in that attracts fish.
I never used that. Was it any good?
I used it like there were times, because the good thing is you could use it in an area where there's no fishing spot there, and you'll kind of get like an average of all different fish that are in the area. So say if it's like, oh, I need to get the stretchy eel or whatever in this spot, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to look at all the spots. I'm going to go here and just keep getting fish until I get it. And I guess also it could be efficient if you're like right by the trader. Yeah, you could just get a bunch of bait and
that's a good point. Yeah,
just get a bunch, but you got to buy the bait. So I guess you got to, or at least you got to trade in fish to make bait.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's worth it.
No,
especially because he's so far away.
Yeah. Also, I had so much money, I didn't even. Yeah, it didn't even matter.
Well, I did the. I used that. What is that move called? It's called like, I can't remember. The one that lifts the fish out of the water. I only used it for sharks because I never had my rod could do 4 categories, for whatever reason,
but not the ocean ones.
But not the not the sharks. So we just lift them out and then put them on the boat. It
was so unsatisfying that they would never give you, as far as I could tell, the combination to cover everything.
To cover absolutely everything, make you unstoppable.
Did we get any questions?
We
have a dredge through the comments.
It wasn't a dredge; it was a lovely time. Let's have a look. We got a comment from Boot76 on YouTube who said, "Super excited to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Played it back in January. Thought it had a great atmosphere, but thought that the game definitely got less fleshed out as it went on. At the start, it felt like a full world, and then it slowly gets more and more empty. Really enjoyed the game, but thought the ending was quite sudden. Also, really happy to see some New Zealand representation on the list."
They just perfectly summed up.
They summed up
our entire point. That's so funny. Exactly. And I do agree with that, because the world did seem almost like, God, it's so big. Like when you think like, even the first time there's like these 2 villages opposite each other and you're like, oh, they're quite far away. Then you're like, oh, on the map there's things over there. Yeah. But then as soon as you upgrade your engine, like the world keeps feeling smaller and smaller.
When I realised I could sleep away from home, it felt smaller.
Yeah. I kept thinking, I'm going to be travelling back. But then you're like, oh, they've basically got this travelling trader who like does almost all of the functions you need at home. I think the only reason you need to go home is if you've got a relic, which is for the main mission. Then also I don't think there was a way to like sell like treasures.
Yeah, there was that guy on the other Marrow. Yeah, he was the only person that I found.
Okay, so I had to keep going back to like sell stuff to him.
They also had a question. Boot76 said, "Did you guys have a favorite location, and did you play either of the DLCs?" So I thought there was only one DLC, and I looked it up. I watched the video on the Xbox store of what it was. Obviously, it's much the same, so I'm sure you can imagine, but it's ice themed. And a big part of that DLC is smashing your boat through ice walls.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so
like
maybe
through
there's
walls
something...
or like through the floor.
Well, there's like it's like icy rocks and stuff that you can break by smashing into them.
Because I like those boats that like just break their way, like icebreaker boats.
It's not one of those.
The ones they always make friends with other boats.
What?
Icebreaker boats.
Oh no! No! Oh no! I'm too frosty for that. But yeah, so that was the DLC. I didn't see the other one, and then obviously mine came with Black Isle Key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't do any DLCs.
Any favourite locations?
I don't know the name.
We're going to say the same one, I think.
I like the tentacly one with the rocks around it. The one we spoke about earlier where you got to do the generator.
Yeah. Oh no, my favourite one was the one with the crashed airplanes.
That one was cool.
I feel like it had a bit more to it. It had a bit more of a story to it and a bit more like... It wasn't just like, oh, here's a collection of islands. It was like, I've crash landed here in my plane and I want to avenge my...
You got to collect like dog tags.
Yeah.
I think it was good, but that was at the point where like the progression felt broken for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I spent like so little time there. I did no like normal... I would just... Like, because the mission was quite easy there.
Well, yeah, I used to walk through, so I was through.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like I just went and just did the thing that had to be done easily and moved on. So I didn't spend much time there.
Did you notice that the layout was changing?
Yes, once. And then there's a note somewhere that said about it, but it never seemed to block my path or anything. Like I was there for so little. I feel like anything cool about it was like, it went past so quick.
I got blocked there for a whole day. I got stuck in a little dead end there, and I couldn't get out because the mangroves are just coming up and like blocking me for a whole day. I was like, well, I don't know what to do.
Actually, that might have been where the big crab was. Maybe it was a plane, not a boat. There was something,
maybe because you have to check out the planes to get the dog tags.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it was.
John Wellington, this might put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay,
said it was on YouTube, and they said, "What is your favorite sea creature, and what is a creepy sea creature which you wish you saw more of in video games?"
My favorite.
I've got one that I wish I saw more in video games.
Okay, you go.
The creature of the Black Lagoon.
Oh yeah,
he's so funny.
He's so good.
He's so good. Imagine if he was in this game. Imagine if you pulled up your directly. He was like, and he gave you a mission. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, I don't think that would help for you wanting it to be more scary.
It depends. If you gave you the mission,
blokey person like a suit could barely walk. Like
if you gave you the mission at knife point, then it would be more scary.
Yeah. I mean, I liked a lot of the designs of like the mutant fish that you
they were cool
that you got in this game. Like I always enjoy, especially because there's a lot of them, so I always enjoyed seeing them.
Yeah, the developers said their favorite part of the game was designing and writing about the mutant fish.
Yeah,
which I will admit I didn't read any of the.
No, I read through a few. Sometimes it would show you where you get them from, and that would be useful. So I think something that like I don't know a specific creature, but something that would have been cool is like a land creature. That means you can't go to the docks, and so you got to be like force you out in the waters.
Does you mean it's like blocking the dock or destroying the dock?
Or like you can go on the dock, but if you do, like the tiger might get you or something.
What about they added? I mean, this is doubling the scope of the entire game, but what if they added going underwater? They could add a lot of cool stuff there. Deep sea. The thing is with deep sea fish is they become not completely unscary, but a lot less scary when they're out the water, which is the only time you ever interact with them. So it's like something about being able to go onto your dredging platform and lower down. Now that'd be a scary game.
I mean, that's Subnautica. Because that's where Subnautica isn't like, because that's a first-person survival game, and it's like you keep going deeper.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So lower then.
And once again, it's not. I don't think I would ever call it a straight horror game, but it's a game where you're going deep under the ocean and there's giant creatures, and so like it inherently is quite scary. And because there's stakes to like dying in it, it's like you got like I like it when there's like story like fear and gameplay fear of like fear of losing progress as well. And so I think Subnautica, I think maybe you should have picked Subnautica for the it sounds like that's the game, like everything you should like describe of you wish this game was sounds like you're just describing Subnautica.
Okay, I've got one more good thing and one more bad thing.
Okay.
Good thing, great music.
Yep. As I said, playing this with headphones on was really good.
Lovely piano music, lovely sound design. One bad thing, which is not the fault of this game, I'm just sick of it. When you speak to someone, they go, Like, I'm so bored of that. Like, can we just stop doing that from now on? Like, it's so done,
what would you want?
Nothing. No sounds.
Just nothing.
If they're going to put text on screen, no sound's fine. Or the sound of like the text coming up. Like, is fine by me.
Okay, like SOS.
I think when I used to play Animal Crossing, I used to have it on just sound mode, not on Animalese, whatever it's called. It was just
I don't mind it. It gives you like a bit of this is what they, like you can imagine what their voice would sound like. But, if they're like, it's like okay.
No,
but if they're like, like sort of like you get a bit of an idea.
Yeah, not as bad as Tears of the Kingdom, but
yeah, maybe because it doesn't bother me. But now maybe you've broken me now. Maybe I'll notice it. I mean, it's better than the old like Rare games. They were like the worst.
God, it's like
it can always be worse.
Yeah, true. But every time from now when you play a game, you see text on the screen.
No.
As soon as you're going to press A, you're going to be like, is it going to make a noise?
No, not listening. Every game is fine.
Is it list time?
It's list time. Okay, so this is going to be the 61st entry on the list. So something is going to get knocked out.
It's going to get knocked out. It's going to go down to the depths.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. LA Noire is going to get knocked out.
We'll have to dredge to find it again after this.
Right, Ted, do you want to just kick off LA Noire, get out of the way?
All right, okay.
And then we could just look at the list.
Down it goes.
Doesn't that look nicer? Doesn't the list look nicer all of a sudden?
One thing I just want to quickly mention is a lot of people on audio said to me like, I wish I could see the list. It's in the show notes. So just scroll to the side. Scroll to the side, whichever way you need to scroll.
The way you said that was really like...
It's in the show notes. It's every episode. I don't have to type it out. So it's like, it takes ages for me to do.
To be fair, we have not mentioned that in a very long time.
That's true.
You used to mention it regularly.
True. It's in the show notes, guys. So scroll to the side or whatever app you're using. Find the notes and they're there. And
the version of the list in the notes is the version without it added. So it's spoiler free. It's a dredgeless list is in the show notes. So have a little look or maybe have it up on screen while we're talking through it, as long as you're not driving.
Yeah. Or dredging.
As long as you're not fishing. As long as you're not swimming. You listen to your podcast while swimming.
Write in if you do, because I'm actually curious if anyone does.
Yeah, don't dredge. Careful writing in though. Don't drown when you type.
Don't dredge. Okay, I'm curious where this is going to go because I just feel like it's one of those games that's a bit of a.
It's really weird that neither of us fell in love with it because the way people spoke about it last year was so positive, and I think like quite fairly some people it really clicked for them, but it wasn't the fact that like I didn't like it. It's like it felt like there almost wasn't enough that I can see why someone fell in love with. Like Outer Wilds we both really enjoyed, but I'd say probably less than the people that really liked it. But I could at least see why the people that really love it.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, I'm like, it's gotta be the tone and the vibe really pulling a lot of the weight. Whereas the actual gameplay felt light, and for me, the balance for my playthrough didn't really work out.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something controversial because only 4 people developed it, and I'm not having a go at them. I feel like the game just completely lacked any ambition. And that's why it's just washed over us. Like, it wasn't doing anything new, really. The new idea was, it's a cozy game, but it has a scary edge. And that edge is blunt. And that's it's like, it's a cozy game, but it's not even that good of a cozy game compared to, like, we did Ooblets. I don't want to say Stardew Valley because that's the one everyone goes to, but we did Ooblets. That's different enough. But this game was just... It was like, as soon as you get the upgrade, it's one of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't... I don't like saying no ambition.
I know, I feel bad for saying it. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Like, it's not trying to push...
It was retreading ground.
It's not trying to push the boat out.
Here we go. Come on.
Yeah, I think, as you say, because it's made by 4 people, like, there's a version of this game that was made with maybe more ambition that didn't come out because they couldn't make it with 4 people.
Or it's called Skull and Bones.
Yeah. It probably is more ambitious than Skull and Bones.
I feel like maybe not that it lacks ambition. I just feel like it's treading water. No, it's retreading stuff that we've seen many times at this point in this genre as the lifespan. you're putting down crab pots. You're basically planting flowers. You're picking up fish. You're selling them. You're harvesting. You're upgrading a ship.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that style of gameplay with like the Resident Evil style inventory and like that sort of vibe, like I can't really think of any direct comparisons to it. I was super on board with that. Like I just
good. Another one.
I just wish there was a little bit more depth with some of the.
It was a shallow game. It was shallow
with some of the mechanics. This isn't even really a shortcoming because like they know how easy the fishing mini games are, and like they know how simple the progression is, and like the kind of puzzles where, you know, when you arrive at an area, the steps you need to do to get a relic, like they know how simple that is. Like that wasn't an accident, you know. They weren't trying to make Cuphead here. Like they know but for me, like I wish that I was putting a little bit too much more for an effort into it, because from just going kind of through the motions of trying to complete it, like I kind of just got a little bit bored, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, maybe they weren't lacking ambition. That was bad for me to say. They were coasting, weren't they? Also, there might be a failing of the fact that if you try and take a game like Stardew Valley and compress it into 9 hours, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Because Stardew Valley, like, people think of it as a casual game, but it's like quite a deep game. There's like a lot going on there and different things and like decisions to make for what you want to do. And for me, I felt like I played it in my way, in the way I was enjoying it at the beginning. And I felt like I was almost punished for that at the end because like my actions messed myself up. But then like I wouldn't have been playing in the way I would have been enjoying it if early on I just kind of focusing on missions. So like, I did like this game. Like, I didn't hate it. I kind of like, I was done with it long before it was done, and it never introduced anything new kind of beyond the first couple hours that was different enough. Like, that changed game. Like, as I say, there's that thing where you can now make explosives and blow things up, and you buy them, you go to the place, you press A or whatever, and it says it's blown up, and then you carry on going. You know, like, it's so very simple. Like, the things that they did add in the twist, like none of them really change the way you're playing the game day to day.
Would you play Dredge 2?
I would look at reviews and I wouldn't discount Dredge 2 because of Dredge 1.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't say like if they announced Dredge 2, I wouldn't be like, ooh, you know, I wouldn't be getting excited about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have played Dredge if you hadn't.
My bad.
If you hadn't chosen. I didn't. I think I'm sounding too negative.
No, mate. It's fine. You don't sound too negative. I sounded negative by saying that the poor team of 4 that made their life. I told them they lacked ambition.
That didn't sound negative. That sounded mean.
I realised how mean that sounds now. Is this the best fish game ever?
Fishing game.
Fish adjacent game.
Is Echo the Dolphin a fish game?
Yes.
Can you like name off some fish games?
COD.
Oh, that was good. That was good. What are games that have I mean, Stardew. I quite like the Stardew Valley fishing game, but that's not really a fish game, is it?
It is a bit like when you play a game and it has fishing minigame in it, and you're like, oh, I wish there was a whole game of this. And then they made one, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's Wave Racer. That's great.
That's not fishing though. It's fish adjacent because you're in water. I guess.
You're not actually getting fish out of the water. Like, does this have to be a game where you're getting fish out of the water?
It needs to be something to do with fish.
Okay.
Sega Bass Fishing is pretty good. I love that. I know you're not super keen. I've played that game my entire life.
I've played it. I played a little bit in Like a Dragon, I guess.
Yeah, half speed.
I probably, despite not loving it, I probably enjoyed Abzu more.
Oh yeah,
that's a very fishy game.
Yeah.
Have you seen that game that's coming out? I think there's been a few of them. The game is just about like very realistic fish. It's like coming out on Switch, and you just like look at them and take pictures.
Endless Ocean.
Endless Ocean. That looks really good.
It does look good, and also 16-player multiplayer.
All right. Nice. Oh, Subnautica. Subnautica's my favourite fishing game. There we go. Yeah. You eat fish to get water. There's watery fish in Subnautica. Yeah, there we go. Subnautica's my favourite one.
You eat fish to get water. What do the fish live in?
Well, because you think you have a thirst meter.
Right.
And you're in the middle of the ocean. So they got to find ways for you to get.
Yeah.
There's like, I can't remember what they're called. It'll be on screen. They're like juicy fish or something.
Right, Dredge.
Dredge. Right. So let's try and get an area. So what's a game that you enjoyed more than Dredge, as high up as possible?
XCOM.
Enjoy. So XCOM 2 is at number 40.
Alien Isolation easily.
Yeah, I enjoyed Skyrim more.
Yeah.
I think we're finding its area. I think it's early 40s.
Bioshock. Maybe underneath.
That'll be us soon,
maybe.
That'll be us by the time we finish this podcast.
Maybe. What, in 20 years? I don't know about that. Maybe Bioshock 2 is its friend. Fish related.
Oh, maybe.
Kind of a good place. I did enjoy it more than Elite.
So, but yeah, Bioshock 2's at 40. So Elite's weird. Like Elite, like we can just never judge fairly because it's so out of its time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Elite, like it's just such a more important game, but playing it today is a little bit tough. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, if you're listening to this.
What about one above? Maybe actually Frog Detective kind of area.
So where's Frog Detective?
44.
44. Yeah, I preferred Ratchet and Clank. That kept me going. So Ratchet and Clank's 45. I think I enjoyed Bioshock 2 more. Yeah, I did enjoy Bioshock 2 more.
Yeah.
I think I would personally put it at 47. One under Bioshock 2, one above Elite.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that's a nice little spot for it. And also in Bioshock and what's his name? Project Delta and Dredge could be mates because they're both underwater. That's the name of the guy from Bioshock, isn't it? Project Alpha,
Delta, Omega. There's different ones.
I had no idea what's going on in that game, so it doesn't matter.
Have you seen Judas?
I have seen Judas.
Ken Levine's new game.
Yes, I have seen it, and it looks cool. Based on what they've shown, it looks cool.
Just like a procedurally generated story is what they're going for.
Yeah, that's what they're going for. Yeah, I don't know whether or not turn it off. That's what they're going for. It's a cool idea. It sounds cool. Yeah. Great art style as well. Great graphics.
Have you seen how you get around, like the quick travel?
No, is it in the trailer?
It's in like a giant dog.
What, really?
There's like a giant dog robot, and you go in its head, and it's like a visor.
Cool.
It looks really, really cool. That's how you quick travel. Anyway, we couldn't be drifting further away from.
Nicely done. Another one.
I'm done. Right. So yeah, Dredge has ended up on the list at number 47. One under Elite, one above Bioshock 2. Farewell, LA Noire. And we will update for video people. We will update the list so you'll be able to see it in the next episode. But yeah, it didn't make sense to have a bunch of blank space for just LA Noire getting pushed down. So. Yeah, kind of surprising. Dredge was a beloved game from last year. As you said, many people had it on their top 10 games for the entire year. Some people, I'm sure, had it at number 1. It's surprising that we both kind of ended up feeling exactly the same about it.
Yeah, I was thinking top 20 for sure. The amount of people liked it. Going into it, I was quite excited. The intro, I was quite excited. And then...
I mean, I was thinking like top 40 for sure. I didn't... I wasn't like that certain on it. But yeah, that's cool. So if you did... play Dredge and you did have a more positive experience than us, like I'd really like to hear like the strong arguments for it. Like what is it about it that made people fall in love with it? I'm really thinking it's like the tone and the vibe and like the spookiness and the weirdness and stuff, because I think that is its strongest quality, but I don't think that was enough to hold it up for like 10 hours of playing through it.
I agree. And I mean, to its credit, I do like a short game. So there's a little bonus there.
But it was a short game that I felt dragged, which is
felt dredged.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to hear what's coming up?
Love to.
So Portal 2, the next episode, is on the May 3rd, and we have a guest. So that one will be recorded remotely again.
Yep.
That's good. Whenever we have a guest, we're going to record remotely. Otherwise, it's just going to be us talking over each other and the guest 5 seconds behind. Then May 17th, we have Good Boy Galaxy, which is a brand new Game Boy Advance game that you can buy the ROM from the developer.
How did we come up with the idea to choose that game?
Well, we released a video called Something Hype Train. I can't remember what it's called. Something Hype Train. It's a fun video where we basically took all of your comments and put them onto this hype train, and then only a few of them could remain near the end, and that's how we picked the game.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, you
should. I should watch that. That sounds great.
You should watch it. It's good. And then after that, on May 31st, we have Harold Halibut, which, would you like to explain what that is?
Yeah, so I don't actually know loads about it, but I know it's like, it looks a little bit point and click adventure-y, or at least adventure gamey. I don't know how puzzly it is. It might be more story, but visually, its standout thing is that it's done with stop motion, or at least a lot of like the sets are built by hand. I think all of the animation isn't stop motion, but it looks like stop motion. And it's like they took pictures of real like models, like in real life things. And then I think they are doing computer animation over it. But like just the art style and like the tone of the game and like that type of game just seemed really interesting. So that was kind of a last minute. It's coming out soon. It's a recent release. So we're going to be doing that on May 31st.
Yeah, I think it comes out on the end of April. Or maybe, no, it comes out April 16th.
Okay.
And it's on Game Pass.
Yep.
So
yeah, one of the ones that I was like, I'm going to play this anyway. Let's try and make Ollie play it too.
Have you seen any trailers or anything?
Yes.
Okay. Because I kind of mostly avoided them, and I was clicking through something and I saw like 5 seconds of the game and I was like, what? Like, I could not believe the setting. Like,
I saw like the first trailer I watched all of. Yeah. And then I've seen bits in like Summer Games Fest or whatever, like, and it will show it, but then I always kind of end up looking away a bit. So I've got to play
So when it's on the TV, you just like
no, I call it so me and Kyle asked me, I call it my spoily cave. And like sometimes if it's something that like we both don't want to get spoiled on, we go like, let's go to the spoily cave and we do this. And we go like to each other, like, so we're demonstrating. We go like that. We go like, spoily cave, spoily cave, spoily cave. We just say spoily cave like this so we don't get spoiled. So
if anyone clips that, can you blur my face?
That's right. I don't want to be spoiled. So I go my spoily cave.
Okay, well, I think that's us, to be honest. I think that's everything. We haven't.
Is that what we're ending on? That's going to be the takeaway from this episode.
Takeaway, another pun, fish and chips, sort of, in a way.
Nah, okay, that's a stretch. Let's end it here. Also, there's another one-off video that will be coming up at some point as well, which is one done in person. So keep an eye on the channel. There is stuff going on. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined us on Patreon. For the video version, you'll have been seeing the names of everyone on the Only tier. But if you want to kind of find out what you get from joining Patreon, there's a link at the top of the description or in the show notes where it explains about kind of all of the benefits you get, including a whole nother podcast. You could double your amount of bonus points podcast if you join. So if you want to kind of find out how that works or even join the free trial, as I said, link for that down below.
Yeah, awesome. That's everything.
Awesome. Right, cheers guys. We will see you in 2 weeks where we're going to be doing Portal 2 with a guest.
Cool. Cheers everyone. Bye.
Bye.